Well, hello and great big welcome. My name is Lisa, also known as EnergieGal. I am passionate about helping you discover, remember, and be who you are. As an intuitive and soul seer, I help you discover your unique wiring using tarot, astrology, human design, Reiki, and intuitive guidance. I help you live empowered. Now I'm talking practicalities like how to be healthier, which career path to choose, how to do relationships, and how to move past childhood traumas. You are worthy and capable of experiencing your best life. Listen, you are not a problem to be solved, but you are a mystery to be unpacked. So let's get curious together. To book a reading with me, click on the link below in the description box and let's get this party started. Now, today's agenda, the EnergieGal podcast, where we experience transformational conversations as listener and storyteller gather to share, be real and raw. We grow and we heal together. Thank you for joining us. We are in for what's supposed to be a wonderful time, I'm sure. Now, let me talk to you a little bit about our guest in the house. She is a registered Lilydale medium. She's a certified intuitive life coach, a radio show host, an author, and an inspirational speaker. Her byline is, be who you are, for who you are is blessed. I totally dig her energy, and I am so blessed to be spending some time with her today, as well as sharing her with you. May I introduce to you the Reverend Colleen Vanderzyden.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed our little chit-chat even before we started, and I'm really looking forward to how Spirit unpacks our conversation today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so the reason that I asked Colleen on is that she wrote a book called Courageously You, and I love, it had me at the lighthouse on the cover. Magical mind games to get unstuck and reignite your joy. Absolutely love that title. So I need to let you know, y'all, that I started reading it and immediately loved it. Immediately thought, oh my goodness, this is an energetic download that I am getting of energies that is shifting things within me. It's more than just words on a page. It's her experience that she's put together and masterfully put into a book that then she has put out into the world. It's like you birthed a baby.
20-something years of getting ready to do it.
It's like you've got this baby and we get to take care of it and reap from it and learn from it. It's amazing. It's what I love it. It's very organized. That's important to me. I think that my very favorite part is all the stories. You start with a story, and to me, immediately, I don't feel like you're talking down to me like you're some kind of freaking expert. And how can I just not pull my head out of my butt, you know? It is, here's what I've experienced. This is what I gleaned from it. And this is the lessons and I'm wondering if this would help you. It's very invitational rather than condemnational. Mm-hmm. And I loved that. It was insightful, it was deep, and yet there was real life application.
Yeah.
And like I had said to you earlier, I won't give my copy away. I'm going to keep it as a resource because you've got so much in here, and I want to reread it, kind of like a yearly pilgrimage for me. But I would buy copies for my friends, but they cannot have my own. So, all right, let's get into this. How did you come up with the title, first of all, Courageously You?
You know, that's actually an interesting story because I've been thinking about writing a book for so long, decades, apparently. My daughter's 26, and she says, you've been talking about this as long as I've been alive, you know. And it was initially a few years ago, maybe, I don't know, 5 or something years ago, I've done, and more, I did a couple of Hay House Writers Workshops.
Okay.
And they try to get you to do stuff, but part of their appeal, those workshops, is you get to submit a book proposal.
Oh.
So 3-4 years ago, whenever it was, I started a book proposal with some of the ideas that were in this book. And it wasn't accepted as a contest winner, and I was happy about that because when I read it after I had sent it in a few months later, I thought, this isn't the right book. And the book then was going to be called something very bland, that's the word I want, like Walk in Your Power, like, yuck, how boring is this? And then as I started playing more with my magical mind games and strategies in my book, I realized, for years I've been talking about being who you are. And it's like, well, why aren't we ourselves? It's because we have fear.
Yes.
And fear shows up in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, well, of course, let's call it Courageously You. And so then, I had, no kidding, 200 titles probably in a file. Anytime a title came out, I was like, this is a great title, this is a great title, this is a great title, right? And finally, I settled on that, and I suggested it to some people and said, what do you think about this, Before I'd even read the book, really. And everybody was like, oh, I like that. I don't know what it means, except that I know
I'm curious now.
I would be me. I would be courageous. So many people deny their fear. Have you noticed that? Oh, I'm not scared.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then why are you worried about what's happening?
Right.
Or why are you stressed out? Or why are you this? And they
People don't realize it's all love or fear.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's how that came out. And it felt right. Well, you know how things feel right?
I do.
It took a little longer for the subtitle to come out.
Well, and it's a long subtitle, but it's playful, and it is it's fun. And I was surprised that I would pick up something, because I got so much Scorpio in me that it's got to be deep and serious or it's just a waste of time. But it was fun, and that had me. I was curious, like, okay, so it's magical mind games to get unstuck. I can relate to that. And reignite your joy. And I loved that you put reignite your joy. Because to be courageous, we don't realize that from being courageously you can be joyful.
You will be joyful.
You will
if
be
you
joyful.
Are true.
And who doesn't want to be joyful?
Right? Well, there are some miserable people.
Yeah,
well, most people.
Yeah. So I liked it. How did you come up with the lighthouse?
Well, this is so interesting. The last chapter of the book, I talk about the lighthouse. And I did a radio show once when I went to that very lighthouse, and I talked about how a lighthouse was an analogy, a metaphor for life.
Yeah.
And as I started thinking about it, and when I sent the book off, and they're like, what do you want on the cover? I said, I really want a lighthouse. Because the lighthouse, we all know a light is there to guide others in the dark, but also it protects us. And a lighthouse is so strong. A lighthouse doesn't get knocked over by the storms. And so there's so many meanings within the lighthouse for me. What was fun is that this very lighthouse on the cover is the Portland Head in Maine. And I had been there a couple of years ago with my mom. I took her there during COVID times because she needed some enlightened fun. And we went to the lighthouse. I didn't think anything of it. So when I told the designer I wanted a lighthouse, he picked this one. I'm like, it looks familiar, but I didn't place it right away.
My goodness.
I know, right? And in my head, I'm like, well, all lighthouses look kind of the same. They don't at all. They don't at all. And so I saw that, and this went through 10 iterations before it came to this. Lots of feedback from a couple people in particular and stuff, and I really love the picture. And then I went back to Maine again with my mom, and I'm looking in the little travel booklets you get, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's the cover of my lighthouse, So we went back and visited it again, and I took the exact same picture from across the way. Doesn't really have the steps there that I put in the cover, but that's there to lead you to the lighthouse, of course. So
yummy for so many different reasons. I love right in the first paragraph, you made this very down-to-earth and relatable step-by-step with examples. You opened right up with a story.
Yes.
I felt like, Kyle, that I was sitting across the kitchen table, and we both had cups of coffee or tea, and you started just unpacking a story to me. But it was generous. It was, here's my story. And while I'm a teacher and I'm a guide, I'm also the student. It was yummy.
It's really interesting. Through all the writing experiences I've had, And I don't consider myself really a writer. I read this and I'm going, how did this come out of me? So, so much of it was a download, but also, I had, through my failures, the first draft of this was horrible, but through my failures and helps from editors and stuff, they really emphasized the personable part of it. And it's the same thing, when you're doing a radio show or, a podcast, you want to show yourself. You want to be talking to your best friend. And my final editor for this, she was amazing, just so helpful. And you should have seen her cut and stuff. She's like, no, it's not interesting. No. And she kept talking about the story. And another editor I found kept talking about the story. You've got to tell the story. And when I envisioned talking, I have a friend that I used to talk to a lot, and I would always envision talking to her, how I would tell her the story. And then I finally got how the best way to do it was. A lot of people have told me it's like I'm just talking to them. And, and I tell people too that every story I tell, every magical mind game I talk about, it's because I've needed it. Yeah. And my massage therapist likes to joke, you don't want people to think you're a hot mess. Right? So I wasn't always who I am now. And so I say to people, if I know, because I look back at who I was 20 whatever years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
I was a stressed out, control freak, people pleaser,
totally
unhappy, didn't know what I wanted, didn't know who I was.
And you had me at inner critic.
Oh, the inner critic.
As soon as you started talking, I was like, I got to read this, because that's always been this voice in my head that just has beaten me up over the years, that I remember after years and years saying to my husband, from doing my work, I was doing my work, I was applying the things that I was reading, not just reading them. And I said to my husband one day, turned to him and I said, oh my God, do you hear that? And he said, no, what are you talking about? And I said, I don't hear that voice in my head. And that inner critic had finally ebbed. And not that it's not there ever again, but it's from way out there. And the voice inside my head is very encouraging to me, and kind and generous, curious, compassionate, and courageous.
Yes.
So,
yes, and that, actually, I never really answered your question before about the magical mind games.
Yeah.
You know how our mind plays tricks on us, and we call them mind games.
Yes.
So as I was like, but my strategies in the book, the ways you look at life differently, if you apply them, they are magical.
You bet. They're magical.
They're magical, and they create a whole new perspective.
Absolutely.
And when we do that, that inner critic, we know our mind has so much power.
Oh my God.
And we're so unaware of what our mind creates.
Well, we get to that later on when we talk about narrative and story. And
right? And then we can muffle that inner critic and bring out the strength and the power that we have. It's amazing.
Oh, it's freeing and it's encouraging. Because I remember when I was in the depths of some of my most difficult things, I wish that I'd had someone say, there's a bridge and it's over there and you need to walk it, but I can point the way to it. And I'll even walk beside you for a season of time, but you need to use your own legs to walk it. I didn't have any of that. And maybe the person was there and I didn't see it. But there was a part of me thinking maybe it's this way forever. So I just want to encourage y'all, it doesn't have to be that way. We are living proof, that you can go from hot mess to, oh, heck yeah. Be happy. So I want to go into chapter 1, Larry the electrician using dowsing rods. You ask him, how does it work? I love his reply. I'm not really sure. I'm really just not sure. And I loved that you opened up that whole part of getting into this intuitive aspect of us, which is in the mind. We are supposed to be using our minds, not for just analysis, but for creativity and imagination. And I love the fact that sometimes we just don't know that answer, but it certainly lands in my body right. So I love that he's like, I really don't know.
He doesn't know.
I'm not exactly sure.
But yet he trusts it.
And yet he trusts it.
Yeah.
And then you get this message from the seashell that you put on your website that is...
Be who you are, for who you are is blessed. And that's actually just part of the message. There's another whole part to that. But that's the part that woke me up. And I realized.
That woke me up.
It did. I had no idea how I was living, who I was, what I wanted. I had absolutely no idea. By external accounts, people thought, oh, she's successful, she's married, she has kids, she has a job, she's got the dog, the cat, the house, the whole bit. But I was a miserable person and just a control freak, stressed out person. And when it was be who you are, for who you are is blessed. And when that happened, and I described the whole story in chapter 1, but when that happened, the next day, and I did not put this in the book actually, the next day I woke up, looked in the mirror, and I recognized that I looked different. I physically looked different. And I remember staring at myself going, how is it that I look different? It was like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a cement ball around me just cracked open. And I had no idea where I was going. I had no idea what I was going to do. I had no idea how I was going to find out who I was. But I knew I was going to find out who I was. And I knew there was that spiritual, that natural, universal, divine energy, whatever you want to call that energy, connection. I didn't know what I was doing. There's some blessing within being ignorant as well. I'm just going to dive in. You know?
I like to call it childlike.
I love that phrase.
You know?
Right? We want to be childlike. Wonder.
Very much so. Like, I don't want to have all the I's dotted and the T's crossed.
Right?
Sometimes you step out like Indiana Jones. I'm pretty sure the path is here.
Right?
I'm going to step out.
Do you remember that one?
Yes, I do. Yes. That's my life. I want to tell you that there were two particular chapters that were my favorite for the Magical Mind Game. This is one of mine. And it is, the first Magical Mind Game is I Choose.
Yes.
I want you to know that was instrumental in me speaking with so many of my clients. So thank you. And I gave you credit. I was like, this book I just read from a girlfriend who wrote it, it's so good. And even this morning during my prayers, when I take my little Gia puppy dog for her walk around, I was experiencing a little bit of like a block yesterday when it comes to trying to get things going on my computer. And I thought, I wonder why I would choose that. And it really changes the whole energies. Today I'm choosing to feel a little out of sorts. I'm telling you, Kyle, I use it all the time. And then I'll say, I wonder why I'm choosing that. Later on, I'll choose to be a little more organized. But for today, I'm feeling a little bit, but what was it about this I choose thing?
So
it's broken my world, baby.
You know, and I've had several people say that because as we've grown up, you know, we've been conditioned to believe we have to meet others' expectations. We have to live a certain way. We have to be a certain way. So in essence, what we're doing is we've given away our power. We don't realize we have the power, that we are responsible for how we live our lives.
We are responsible.
We are responsible for how we experience our lives. And simply the idea to embrace, I choose. If we go through our day and we choose, I'm choosing to drive down the street. And just narrating our day to ourselves.
Right, I do that.
Kind of get us in that flow where we start recognizing all the choices we make without awareness, or the choices we make out of habit. We're stuck in that pattern. So as soon as we start describing our day, how we're feeling, then we can start recognizing, well, I'm feeling like this. I've had people argue with me, of course, saying, well, I'm not choosing how I feel. They said this to me, and I'm upset. And I'm like, and you're choosing to stay in that energy. Do you want to? Now, granted, yes, we have emotional reactions to things, and we do have to experience them. We do have to process them. Being on a spiritual path doesn't mean we skip our emotions. Right.
We're not going to bypass.
You know, if we're going to be our true selves, we have to experience emotions. But when we get stuck in them, hence the get unstuck, when we get stuck in them, we have given our power away. And we can take it back by going, I'm choosing to be angry. Why am I angry today?
Right.
What is making me
And I think that when I first said, I'm choosing to feel sad today. And I'm like, I wonder why I'm doing that. I had a client back a bit ago, and she was unpacking all these people who were being mean to her, and then there was this and there was that, and I was trying to wiggle in a way somehow, and finally I just let her vomit that all over the place, and and I compassionately listened. At the end of it, I said to her, I wonder why you're choosing this.
Did she hit you?
She looked at me and she said, what? And I said, it's just one after another. I've got to believe that there's something in here because you keep choosing it. You go from a relationship that's the same. And it kind of stirred something up. Even if it stirred her to being like, hey, I'm not so sure. The truth was spoken, and the truth eventually sets you free. So we were able to have a conversation around, but you're choosing that. But I'm telling you, Cal, it was empowering to me.
And it is so simple. It's so simple. All the magical mind games are simple, really.
Simple.
So simple. But you know what we do when something is simple is we discount it. We minimize it. It's nothing important. Or if we know it already, we think we know it already. We go, I already know that. But we don't. And that simple decision to recognize your power of choice is what changes your whole life.
Because, like I've said to myself and clients, if you can choose to be angry, you can choose to not be angry then.
Yes.
You're not at the mercy of the situation. As soon as you own, I am choosing to be angry at this situation, the situation's the same. You can choose to not be angry at it then. I mean, come on, world rocked, baby.
We have to open our minds, and sometimes we don't think we can be happy, which limits us, of course, so we have to choose to open our minds, right?
It's
so mind-blowing.
Chapter 3, I have written down here, endless self-criticism. And this is what you wrote, Cal. I realized I would never speak to another person the way I spoke to myself.
Right. Talk about who we believe we are. We would get to that point and we would speak to ourselves so negatively, so harshly.
You said we've gotten into the habit of believing it's acceptable to be mean to ourselves.
Right?
To the point where if I encourage, and you unpack this in your experiences, I encourage someone to speak kindly of themselves, they'll say, well, I don't want to go boasting about myself. I don't want to start loving myself too much. That would be...
Yes. Well, you remember the story I told in my book about the Sunday school teacher saying not to be proud of ourselves.
Yeah.
And that turned into the belief that I shouldn't be proud of myself. Which mutated into this belief that I shouldn't be nice to myself. Right. I should criticize myself. I should look for my flaws and emphasize them.
Certainly
and then
downplay any good.
Yes, always downplay the good. If somebody compliments you, oh, no, and people are very good at this, which isn't a positive. Oh, no, thank you, no. And then they cringe because they're not comfortable, because they don't love themselves. They don't know that they are worthy.
Absolutely.
Yet.
Yeah.
And that inner critic voice is a sign of our feelings of unworthiness. And part of the reason with the book, you may have noticed at the beginning, is finding out who you really are.
Right.
So that you can start to open your mind and go, I am a good person.
Right.
I deserve to love myself.
Right.
I deserve to believe in myself.
And it is a gift to the rest of the collective to find out who you are and walk in that courageously.
Yes.
Because we're all connected.
Absolutely.
We've got 8 billion different little pieces of God walking around, you know what I mean? But we're all connected to the same source. Absolutely. And so when someone else is doing well, I look and I think, I'm doing all right, But if someone else is not doing well, I feel that too. So the permission that we should give each other, and that I certainly give, be who you are and be courageous and encouraging in that, you bet.
Yeah.
My son just came, Austin. I don't know if you remember little Austin.
Yes.
She had most of my kids in school. But, I don't know if you had, they were banned, but you would have known them.
Okay.
You had Alicia in school. But he said, Mom, thank you for always, something along the lines of, a card that says, you did a great job, Mom. I'm awesome. Thanks for being such a great mom. I'm awesome.
I love it.
I said, good for for you. So you write down here, the magical mind game for when I'm feeling less than good enough is I am.
Yes.
And then you do that by who do I admire?
Yes. So when we think about the people we admire them for certain reasons.
Right.
You know, they have qualities that we think are important.
Right.
And lots of times when we admire somebody, we put them up on a pedestal and we believe we aren't good enough. So if there's someone we admire ourselves, and it could be someone we know, it could be
someone we read in a book.
Famous, somebody we read in a book, somebody who from history.
Right.
It doesn't make any difference who we admire. But when we look at those people and we can pick out a couple of their qualities, you know, why do you admire them? You know, I tell the story about how I always admired Debbie Ford, and she's an author and a spiritual teacher. And I admired her because I thought she was very inspirational. You know, there was just something about how she taught that helped people be themselves. And I remember thinking at that time, you know, as I was thinking about admiring her, thinking, boy, I wish I could be inspirational like her. And then I realized, only because I got a letter from a former student who said, you inspired me. Thank you for inspiring me. And I thought, hold on. Maybe I did inspire someone. So it took me some time before I realized another person is going to demonstrate that quality in a different way, but I can be inspirational in a different way than Debbie Ford and still be inspirational. And then what happens, right? When we do this and we say, I am inspirational, I am kind, I'm loving, I'm caring, whatever it might be, those positive qualities that we admire in others are part of ourselves. That's why we admire them. And then when we say, I am that, we tell it to ourselves repeatedly if we have to. Because what happens is that inner critic comes in and says, no, you're not. You're not good enough. No, you're not. And so it's very important to stand in that power and say, no, I am. And repeat it and repeat it and repeat it until we start to believe it. And then we love ourselves.
And that's why what you're saying is it's so important to know who you are so that when the inner critic comes, you've got the litmus test to say, well, hold on, I hear that voice. Oh, yeah.
It's not true.
It's not true.
All of the stuff the inner critic says is not true. Every single piece. One of my best friends said to me one day, she read my newsletter and she says, I thought you were talking right to me because then the title of that one was, Do You Hate Yourself? And I had no idea she hated herself. I was like, what? What? You know, so it's so important for us to look at ourselves with compassion and kindness.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
At our core, at our soul level, if you will, we are all beings of love.
You bet.
And light, and positivity, kindness, compassion, all of those things. And people need to, again,
remember that.
Yes, remember. That's who you are.
Chapter 4. I can't is an extremely disempowering statement, you write. It immediately lowers our vibration as we disconnect from our power. And you talk about increasing word awareness. When you're enmeshed in fear, complaints, excuses, or feeling powerless or unworthy, reword things.
Absolutely. I used to be the queen of complaining. I was good at complaining. And when I woke up, I realized I was doing this. And then I started simply by stopping the complaining. Then, as I did that, I became more aware of those disempowering words, the I can't. And as I became aware of them, one day I decided I was only going to speak positive words. I wouldn't say I can't. I wouldn't say I never. I wouldn't say I have to. I wouldn't say I should have.
Right.
I was silent a lot that day. I didn't have a lot to say. You know, and it's so interesting. Now, here's the tricky part. If we do something like this, we have to be careful we don't let that inner critic come in and say, oh, look what you've been doing your whole life. Boy, are you stupid.
Right.
I can't believe you've been using those words and you're so bad and you should have been better and you're not very nice. And so we have to just kind of go, you know what? I'm learning. I'm going to learn now. Right. So I am going to change my words. So if we change I can't, as I use the example in the book, to I won't, we are choosing.
And again, it's the choosing.
We are choosing. It always comes back to choosing. We make a decision in order to change our lives. People think, oh, it's too hard, I can't do it. Okay, that means you think it's too hard and you won't do it. You're choosing not to change your life. You're choosing not to look at life differently. You're choosing not to look at yourself differently. So when you change I can't to I won't, you start to get your power back.
Yes, you do.
Because even though you may not be doing whatever it is you're talking about, you're now choosing not to. You have a relationship issue, and you can't tell him how you feel. But if you say to yourself, I won't, and that may be an example in the book too, I won't tell him. It's like, well, why not? What are you afraid of?
Right.
Okay, so I won't get you aware. It also breaks the habit. You know, we live by habit.
So let's flesh this out a little bit more because I really love it. So we get someone who says, I can't tell that person how I feel about this. No way. And what you're saying is reword that to say, I won't tell that person how I feel, because at that point you stay in your power, and then you can have some curiosity, some compassion, and some courage to say, okay, well then I wonder why I won't. Whereas when you're in I can't, there is a little bit of a victim-y, my power is out there.
Absolutely.
With one change of a word.
One change. Isn't it amazing? Words are amazing. Like I have 3 chapters, I think, on words in there. Because our words reflect our inner beliefs. And so many of those inner beliefs we're unaware of. We don't know we've given our power away. We may not even know we have power. You know, we don't know. But if we start to pay attention to these words, it'll lead us to the path that we need to be on.
And our words are creating our world.
Exactly. And how we perceive everything. And how we perceive everything leads us to our emotions. So I can't keeps us feeling we are powerless. I can't tell him. I can't do it. I can't. But I won't means, and maybe there are times where you will consciously, intentionally decide not to speak something.
Right.
But you're doing it from a place of power.
That's right, sister.
So it's not that you're doing it because you're fear-based and you're afraid of the outcome.
I am choosing not to.
Because of a certain reason. Now, it may not be a good reason.
Right.
But at least you're in your power when you're making that decision. And you may decide to change your mind later.
Right.
So it really does get you back in your power.
You're shaking and you're just making it, girl.
The words are so important.
Chapter 6, we talk about unmet expectations. The magical mind game is called Embrace Your Emotions. When you deny, resist, avoid, ignore, or suppress difficult emotions, or when you experience positive emotions, but yet your mind searches for the next problem, preventing you from enjoying feeling good.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? It's so interesting. I had no awareness that by skipping, suppressing, hiding how I really felt, that was also affecting my positive emotions. So nobody wants to feel badly. We never want to feel badly. We don't like feeling upset. We don't like feeling anxiety, fear, whatever.
And I need to get to the point where I realize it's not good or bad. Anger isn't good or bad. It's an emotion.
There.
It's just there.
And we can use those emotions to learn, you know, and it's so interesting when we find out when instead of hiding it, that we actually look at it and go, okay, and I tell the story about feeling anxiety for no reason. And I got the message to, you're supposed to be feeling this. And I was going, what? What do you mean?
Right.
And, you know, instead of magically wishing for it to disappear, which is what we do, what if instead we sit with it? And what I found out is when we sit with the emotion, it takes 90 seconds at most, sometimes 2 minutes, but a minute to 2 minutes of sitting in the emotion and feeling it.
That's right.
That's all it takes.
That's it. I tell my clients, I'll say, listen, if you actually sit with it, it won't last forever. It's lasting forever all these years because you're not
sitting
actually
with it.
sitting
You're
with
skipping
it.
it. You're trying to push it away and hide it. But if you sit with it for 2 minutes, it will come up. You process that. You feel it. If you have to cry, you cry. If you're mad, you're mad.
It's actually in your physiology.
Yes.
That's what we need to realize.
Everything's in our bodies.
Yes.
Everything is in our bodies.
Yeah.
And once we do that, so then once we process it some, then our brain is clear.
Yes.
And then we can look at whatever it is we need to be looking at.
Right.
Where is the emotion taking us? Is there something we needed to learn? Is there some belief we had to discover? whatever it is.
Right.
So many things. Emotions are so important.
Oh, big time. And I love that the lighthouse here looks over the waters, because waters always speaks to me of emotions.
Yes.
So we're grounded in the earth, but the emotions are still a big part of it. But if you're up in the lighthouse, shining, you can see over those emotions. I mean, it's fun to be in the water, and sometimes, things get rocky and shaky, and it can be a little overwhelming, but, bring yourself back to shore. But there's something about getting in the water and actually experiencing your emotions. It's not the same if you're on the shore going, yep, I can really see the waters. That's not the same. Talking about your anger is not the same as actually feeling your anger.
So important.
Even journaling about your anger is not the same as actually sitting and allowing it to be, because that's where it is in the physiology, moving it through.
Yeah. And because we have suppressed our negative, more challenging emotions.
Right.
The happy ones. Because how many times something really cool happens in your life, or you're just happy. You wake up in the morning and you're happy.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, this is going to be a great day.
Right.
And then 3 minutes later, you're upset, or you're sad, or you're feeling a little discontent, and you think, what happened? What happened is your mind went insane on you and just went down this path, and you weren't even aware of it, And so we can bring ourselves back. But if something really good does happen in our lives, how is it that we sit there, we're like, we're so happy, and then 4 minutes later, oh, it's probably not going to last, or maybe it's not true, or, for example, as a musician, I remember winning an audition once, and I got into this group, and I was so excited, and then a few minutes later, I'm like, oh, I wonder if they really meant it. We don't know how to stay happy either.
Yeah.
There is a great book out there. Have you read this book, The Big Leap?
No.
Oh my gosh. Okay, this book you have to read. It's called The Big Leap. It's by Gay Hendricks. I'm pretty sure it's that.
Okay.
It's all about our upper limits. We are only happy to this point, and this is where we're used to be, because we were conditioned. We were conditioned to look for the next danger.
Right.
Our mind has a natural negativity bias. We have to look for the next problem. It's the way it is.
Right. It's innate. It's self-preservation, sure.
Yes, and we don't have to have that so much now, right?
Right.
So, but also then our happiness only goes to here. So this book talks about recognizing this upper limit, he calls it. He also talks about our zone of genius, making sure you're in the flow of who you really are, where you're supposed to be.
Right.
So this upper limit, we can push that up and experience the happiness more. Nice, simple read. Very simple, very easy. Straightforward is another one of those moments where you go, oh, I also don't feel my joy either.
Right. So interesting. I find that anger and other feelings that are just uncomfortable, they're not bad, they're just uncomfortable, they're shamed in society. Like if you're an angry person, it's like, or sometimes they look at it and they go, So I find that sometimes there is something kind of wonky when it comes to being happy. Like, well, I don't want to be too happy in front of everybody. If they're going through rough times, I should. It's just all the different ways that we limit ourselves.
Yeah. My fiance tells me that sometimes I can be almost annoyingly happy.
Is there such a thing?
No.
I love it.
I embrace that.
Oh, you bet. Chapter 8, Our Mind is Powerful. It can take this is awesome. It can take a simple incident or fleeting perception and concoct a meaning that may be false. And this is what I talk is the difference between a story and a narrative. To me, a story is what happened, and possibly what happened from your perspective. But the narrative is what truth you have gleaned out of that.
Absolutely.
So I bring a 98 to my dad. He says, well, it's not 100. Years later, I'm still trying to get 100% because 98 isn't good enough. Because 98 isn't good enough. Because that's not what he said. It is what I gleaned from it. But once I recognize that, then I can do something about that. But unpack a little bit more what you mean by it. I mean, our minds are powerful.
Our minds are very powerful. And the story I tell in the book is about I'm off with my father getting ice cream, and I have a quarter, and we didn't have much money, so it was a special occasion. And I put the quarter on the counter of this ice cream soda bar kind of place, and the teenager swipes the quarter, and my father doesn't say anything. He doesn't say anything to get that quarter back. I didn't realize until later that that turned into a belief that I shouldn't speak up when someone does something to me, inconsiderate, stealing from me, being rude, anything. It turned into a belief that I shouldn't stand up for myself because my father didn't do that when I was 8 years old. Now it's interesting how these interpretations, I call them, work because it's unaware. We're just trying to fit in. We're trying to belong. We're trying to do what our people do. You know, we want to fit in. We want to be accepted.
I see. Stay quiet. I guess that's what you do.
You're supposed to stay quiet.
Yeah, okay.
And whenever we make that interpretation, it always turns into a self-belief.
Yeah.
You know, so this is how I'm supposed to do it. I shouldn't stand up for myself. Something so silly.
You would think it's not that.
So silly. In 6th grade, I remember someone said to me, "Oh, you still kiss your parents goodnight?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to." So I stopped because I didn't think I was supposed to be doing that. Isn't that crazy?
I remember one time I had a client who said, I had the perfect childhood and everything is great. And I said, I think all of us have great aspects and tougher aspects. And I'm a parent of 5. And I can tell you, my kids all have great aspects and difficult aspects. That's the way it rolls, right? But this one particular person said, well, and I said, good, I'm not trying to look for anything. I'm just saying, I wonder. So she said, this is something that comes to mind, but it sounds so small that it can't be it. And I said, well, what happened? She goes, I was in the back seat. Mom was in the front seat, and we went through the bank teller, bank drive-through, and the teller offered my mom a lollipop for your daughter in the back, or the little girl in the back. And my mom said, now we're on our way to go get something to eat. So she said no for me. And she said, something about that made me kind of angry. Like, well, I wanted that. I could have had it for later. Right. Why didn't you give it to me? And it was this underlying difficulty that she felt like she couldn't speak up for herself to say, well, hold on here. And I thought, see, it doesn't have to be a beating. It doesn't have to be rough words. Her mom there was no malice intent. No. Her mom's like, we're on our way to a little birthday party where there's going to be food. I don't want her coming. There aren't enough lollipops for whatever. It was innocent. It wasn't, but it's that sort of thing.
It's something so simple in the passing. You know, I came home one day and I said to my parents at dinner that I had learned how to play whatever song on my violin. And I remember somebody going, well, eat your vegetables. There was no acknowledgement of, oh, congratulations. Really? Was it hard? Was it fun? Was it anything? You know, and that turned into the belief that it wasn't that important.
Right. Which then goes into possibly, well, I'm not that important.
Exactly. Isn't it
and
amazing?
That isn't it at all. But that's not. And then I wanted to talk about the magical mind game of retraining your brain and the whole idea of neoplasticity. This isn't just woo-woo. This is scientific. We can change the way that our brains actually process information.
Yep.
That's huge.
We can choose to go in a different direction. If we read something and we give it an interpretation of something, a meaning of something, we can change the meaning.
Right.
It doesn't even have to be true.
Right.
It's just enough to get us out of stuck up the emotion or feeling defensive or being triggered, whatever it is, we can change it. It's amazing what we can do.
Yeah. I remember having a number of clients saying, I'm really struggling with this whole trying to get into my mind and there was a lack of clarity in that space. And so what I recommended to them, and I'm wondering what you think about this, I said, then just start by using your mind and your tongue, your words, to be grateful. Just start by saying, oh, I'm grateful that the sun is shining today. Oh, I'm grateful that my plant isn't dead. I made sure to water it yesterday. Oh, I'm grateful that the puppy wants to go out for a walk and did a little poopy while we were out. Just trying to find ways to be, even that, to train the brain to see positively. That might help clear some of, it's like looking at a field that is full of junk and grass and everything else. You can't just bring out the mower. It doesn't work that way. You're probably going to have to go through and grab some of the junk. You're going to have to get those big rocks. Then you can bring out maybe one of those. Then you can do the mowing. You can't go right to the mowing. Sometimes it's a process.
It is a process. And lots of times, like I woke up, as we call it, in 2000. Okay, so I've been on this adventure for 22 years.
A long time ago.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I wrote the book is to provide a shortcut for people.
Yeah.
So they have strategies to get there sooner, so it doesn't take so long to get there.
Right.
So
well, we're in that vibration now where things are accelerating.
Everything is speeding up now. And what I'm finding, a lot of people want the answer now. They think, and they're not aware yet, they think there's an end. And then if I do this, then I'm going to be like enlightened or something.
Right.
You know, so it is a process, and it is starting with one small, simple step. Doing something like that with gratitude. What we want to do to retrain the brain is we want to shift where we're looking. So we're changing our perspectives. When we start looking for gratitude and acknowledging it, we're rebalancing our brain. So we're retraining it. It takes time. It takes commitment. The power of choice.
Are you willing? Are you ready to do the work?
Yeah.
I'll walk beside you, but it's your work to do.
I remember saying once to spirits, if you will, I want to learn as fast as I can. That's not always a good thing to say. Because what happens when you're on a spiritual path or the path of discovering yourself is the universe provides you opportunities, lots of opportunities that might be perceived as difficulties, challenges, and painful circumstances to practice being yourself, to practice learning how to retrain your brain, how to make the choice.
How to take obstacles and make them actually be opportunities.
Everything. I heard this phrase once, and this changed my life. There are no problems, only opportunities.
Right.
So it's an opportunity, you know, to figure out how you're going to respond to a situation.
Right.
And so it does take commitment, but you can start so small with one thing.
Absolutely.
Just by becoming aware of your power of choice. Just becoming aware of gratitude. You know, it could be as simple as deciding never to use the word I can't right now, the phrase I can't right now.
Right.
You know, in the book, I want people to come back to it and go, okay, I'm going to play with this magical mind game now.
Right.
And I would play with them. When I first started, I had no idea I was creating these things when I started using them. They just happened. And then I realized when I was upset about something, I always went back to one. And then I'm going, oh, wait, I have created strategies to help me handle life. Oh, okay. And as I did that, I could see certain situations. I was like, oh, I need to do that one. That one's going to help me. And I'd focus on that for a week, a month, until I felt better. It's amazing because it just takes that commitment.
Well, I want to go on to I remember I told you two things. This is the second thing that just jazzed me.
Okay.
Chapter 9. You write this. We've bought into the illusion that life progresses in a straight line. Expecting life to be easier on a direct path, we resist the detours and side adventures, presuming that we're lost. Full of sharp twists and unexpected turns, the journey of life is like a labyrinth. I'm telling you, this encouraged me, and I will use it so many times and say, my friend Cal told me this. Without fail, a labyrinth's meandering path will lead to the center. It will lead you back to yourself, is what you're saying. It isn't like a maze.
Yes.
Where you could get stuck with dead ends. I just needed to sit with that. And I never realized, Kyle, that there was a part of me that thought, it's luck of the draw. And I'm hoping this isn't a dead end. It was a part of me that didn't realize almost the goodness and the encouragement of God's source, spirit, universe to lead me.
Yes.
And that I'm not in a maze, I'm in a labyrinth that just goes deeper and deeper and does take me to the center. Girl, you got to unpack that, because that was an energetic download that is still processing in me.
Yeah, that was something that actually came with my first attempt at writing a book, The Labyrinth, because, I've had to explain labyrinth to people. It just goes and goes till you reach the center. And the whole point of walking a labyrinth is you put a prayer out there, you get to the center, and maybe you get the answer back, whatever it is. But life, every single thing in life, and this is a belief I hold very strong, every single thing in life is here to help us come to our center, to reclaim who we truly are. Every single thing. If people simply embrace that idea, only that, and skip the rest of everything, that everything is here, that everything is here to help us be ourselves. That means where we think we've made mistakes, were they truly a mistake?
Right.
They may have been what we would call a poor choice.
Oh, girl.
They may have been something we did without thought or consideration, but was it a mistake? It taught you something. If you're aware and you've taken it, looked at it, and went, oh man, I wish I didn't do that, then right there, you've learned something. Don't do that again. What did you learn? Maybe you learned whatever you learned. So I did a show once on there are no mistakes. Nothing is a mistake. So in your life situations, anytime something doesn't go the way I want it to, we call it a side adventure. Whether it's truly an adventure or a side journey or whatever we want to call it. But by simply naming it a side adventure, it becomes fun all of a sudden. Okay, I didn't know I was going to be over here, but here I am. So how can I make the most of this side adventure? And so as I look at that stuff, it always comes back to me. It always comes back to what can I learn about myself that is going to make me be even stronger in who I am? Because when I do that, I feel better. I'm happier. So it's motivated because I want to be happier. I don't want to be upset about something. So if it happened, it's supposed to happen. Here we are. I'm just going to deal with it. It's the way it is.
Such surrender and trust.
Yes.
Chapter 10, when we realize the perfection in the labyrinth's twists and turns, we understand that life will lead us to where we need to be. We can then let go of attaching to certain outcomes and allow our life to unfold in its natural progression. We learn to accept and trust the process of life. This belief doesn't mean our events and circumstances will always be pleasant, but it can make them more bearable.
Absolutely. The belief that it's leading us to where we're supposed to be.
These are downloads because, girl, if you're not a writer, that was written well.
It's amazing. I sometimes will look at the book and start reading it, and I keep reading because I find it interesting. And I think,
I've done that.
And I think, well, this is wild.
I wrote these 30-day journals things, and I do them, and I'm like, who wrote this? This is really good.
And sometimes I'll say, that was good.
Yeah, I'm good.
Now granted, this did have many an edit, let me tell you.
Chapter 11, non-attachments. I let go and I trust statements or declarations, appreciate the obstacles. And I loved this magical mind game. I want you to read this. Can you read my chicken scratch?
What if this is the best outcome? Yes.
What a perspective, man.
What if? Because we always have those negative what ifs, right? Something happens. Well, what if? I use this example.
I'm speaking to anyone who feels regrets. Listen to her now.
It's like we might have a flat tire, right? And so we look at it and we're like, I have a flat tire. Oh my gosh. What if my tire doesn't work? What if AAA can't come? What if I'm late to work? What if I lose my job because I'm late to work? What if I lose my house? We have taken a flat tire and now we're homeless. Okay, that's what our mind normally does. But what if that flat tire stopped you from running into a deer?
Yep.
What if this delay is essential?
Right.
So you didn't get in that car accident that's just going to be right up the road.
Come on right now, yes.
So when I started playing with that, everything was better. I walked into my little house at Lilydale. Water torrentially pouring down from the second floor. We had started remodeling it, right? But it was in the back part of the house. We walked in, and I was like, it was like,
oh my goodness.
Okay, so then, our initial reaction, right, would typically be, oh no, this is going to cost a fortune, on and on and on, right? This is what I ended up doing. I walked in, we turned the water off, and I said, ooh, looks like the water had only been running a couple days. What if It had been running a week because I only went over to check on that house during the winter, like once every week or two.
What if you checked on it?
What if it had been running longer? So the damage would have been worse. All the ceiling had collapsed. The walls had collapsed. What if that hadn't collapsed and I didn't find the extension cord that was plugged into an outlet above there, and not fully plugged in? Was that a fire hazard? What if it had broken in the part we had already done? That would have been a bigger problem. The walls and the ceiling had to come down anyway if I was going to remodel. So thanks, took care of that for me. It diffuses our resistance to what is happening. It diffuses it. We just...
But I mean, even something like, I know of someone who really struggles in a specific relationship that they're in, wishing that maybe it had worked out with this other person, and she looks at that other person's life as it unpacks and thinks, oh my God, if I was with that person, could have been the better, and it would have been a better. And I like your statement just saying, but what if this life that you're living now is actually the best outcome?
What if it is? Who's to say what might have happened down the line in the other relationship? We don't know. So I kind of in my mind go, well, maybe he would have turned out to be a raving alcoholic or something. So, well, if this is the best outcome, right away we go, whew, good thing.
Right.
And we have relief, like, okay, we aren't going to have whatever problem might have been down the line.
Right.
Whether it's true or not doesn't make any difference.
Right.
It helps us reframe it.
Right.
So we feel better.
Right. Right.
And
All right, chapter 16, and why not?
Why not?
Chapter 16, think like a cat.
Oh my gosh.
Now, just so you know, I love our cats. We have 4, plus bejoodles out at the barn. But my Gigi, my little fur baby dog, is my little baby. But you love do you have 1 cat?
3 now.
3? You love your cats. You said, when you're doubting yourself due to others' expectations, think like a cat.
Cats don't care what other people think. They do not care, and they don't care what the other cats are doing either. They don't. They walk up to you. They don't like you. They walk away. They want to come in or they want to go out. Doesn't mean they're going to do it. They do what they want. They take care of themselves. They eat when they feel like they need to eat. They groom themselves, so they are taking care of themselves. They get exercise. They get rest. Cats really...
You've heard the difference between cats and dogs, right?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, dogs, because they're being fed and taken care of and petted and given a lot of attention, they think, oh my God, my owner must be God. And the cats, because they're being fed and they're taken care of and they're being petted, like, oh my God, I must be God.
Yeah. Definitely think like a cat.
Think like a cat.
Think like a cat.
Oh, I've got that sign up there that says, remember rule number 6. And people will say to me, what's that? And I'm like, rule number 6 is, it's not about you. Don't worry about it. It's not about you. Let people be on their journey and don't take things so personally. What are the other rules? There really aren't any other rules. That's all from
Live your own life.
Right. And then I just wanted to end by saying at the very end of the book, you have a resource of all these words. And it was just reading the words and the way that you could take this word and replace it with that word, I thought was really good.
The one thing I want to do, because I did want the book to be a resource, so
that's what I wrote, resource.
Yes, I wanted it to be a resource. You read through it, you come back to it.
Yeah.
And so in the back of the book, I listed all of the magical mind games and the pages they were on to start with.
So good.
So that you could go to the back and go, okay, which one is it? Okay, where is it? I want to read it again. But I also put back here the values list. And the self-talk substitution guide. Is that the one you're talking about?
I loved it.
Yes, because...
Instead of saying this, the alternate would be try this.
Yes, because here, there must be something wrong with me. How many times have people said something like that? There must be something wrong with me. I can't find a relationship. I can't find my right job. My kids don't like me. There must be something wrong with me. Maybe there's a behavior thing that needs to change. We don't know. But there's nothing wrong with you. And so the substitution in here is I value and love myself. And when we say something like that, I am, or I value and love myself, we start to believe it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so in the back with the self-talk substitution guide, it has all these things in here. You know, it's not my fault, you know, the victim energy.
Yes.
I take responsibility for every aspect of my
huge.
life. You know, change your words.
And there's this quote that I think you must have put it in at the end. It says, when we are unaware of who we truly are. So this is about coming into a space of becoming aware of who you are, which is a passion for both you and me. You know, mine's discover, remember, be who you are. And yours is all about being courageously you, remembering and waking up to the fact of who you really are as a powerful being of love. And so fantastic. I loved it. I want to just thank you again and again for the book. And I wanted to talk about your Reignite Your Life in-person retreat that you're doing June 3rd to the 5th in Casadega. Unpack it a little bit.
Yeah, it's going to be so much fun. So we're having this retreat in person. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen in person. And we are going to be talking about different ways to reimagine your life. What do you want your life to be? We're going to talk a little bit about reclaiming your power, of course. We are going to play with so many things. We are going to do some crystal work. We are going to do some dowsing. We are going to, of course, create an adventure board, which is similar to a vision board. We are going to work with some color. We are going to do aura readings. We are just going to do a whole bunch of really fun stuff with the whole purpose of getting clarity on who you are and what kind of life you want to create.
Exactly.
We're going to do some self-care stuff. I mean, it is going to be so much fun.
Yeah.
The early bird pricing ends next week.
Okay.
So if people want to sign up, we still have a few seats left. But the early bird pricing ends next week, and the price does include all the supplies, which apparently I've gone a little insane on. I just love buying things for people. It's like, oh, you need this, you need this, you need this. Maybe next year I won't do that so much.
I get it.
But it's like, you need this.
I know.
So we're gonna. The supplies are included, snacks are included. I'm telling people if they're coming from a distance to stay at a guest house in Lilydale if they want to. And then meals are on their own.
Okay.
But,
all right.
Yeah, it's going to be a ball. I am so excited to do it for myself.
June
3rd to 5th.
June 3rd to 5th.
Yeah, people go to my website.
And I'll have those links below.
Yes, and I'm telling people now, Be Courageously You takes you to ColleenVanderzyden.com.
Oh, nice.
So BeCourageouslyYou.com, because people can spell that better, apparently.
Yeah.
So that takes them right there. And right at the very top is the link. They can click on the link, takes them to the page. And also they can download chapter 1 of my book for free on my website as well, if they want to check it out before they buy it.
Very generous of you, because even that's a nice little download.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Power of choice.
Thank you so much. I had a blast today.
Oh, thanks. This was fun.
This was really, really good. I'd love to write another book, and then we'll do it again.
People keep asking me already.
Oh,
and I'm
my
like,
goodness.
I don't know if I have more stories.
Do I have another baby in me? I don't know.
Well, if it took 20-some years to get this one out, y'all,
You'll be 80.
I'll see you in the 80s.
Oh, I would wait. Oh, my goodness sakes. Well, that's our story for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your vibration, your energy, your frequencies, your interest here. As always, be sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share, because this helps our channel grow. And I really, really want to get the word out about us coming into this space of remembering who we are. So remember to book a reading with either of us. I'll have the links below. And if I could end with one phrase, it would be this: you are loved. So go and be blessed for the rest of your day, and I'll see you again next week. Thank you. Bye.